Senator Jeff Merkley, it's always good to chat with you. I know it's a very busy time and there's a lot of different crises going on at the moment. So let's get right to it if you don't mind. I know the Oregon congressional delegation successfully lobbied to get President Trump to declare a major disaster for the region. So, and I know you put out a statement about this, but can you explain in regular terms what exactly that means in terms of help from the federal government for the state of Oregon?
The major disaster declaration opens the door for individual assistance. For example, assistance in paying rent on getting an apartment, an alternative place to live. It also provides for support to communities rebuilding infrastructure. So those are the main two big things. That was last night we got that. This morning we also got the public health emergency declaration. And that opens the door to medical supplies, medical health staff, a regional health coordinator, which will be very valuable to us as well.
And I know that you've been working to get more National Guard firefighters on the ground. How is that effort coming?
Yes, so the governor had wanted to see two more groups of 125 members of the National Guards. It would go from 3 groups to 5. Initially, she was turned down, but I was able, because of the roll-on appropriations, to investigate, find out the money was there, and get it approved. Here's the challenge, and that is we need trainers and we need crew chiefs. And those are in very short supply across the country. So we're working with others to scour the country for a trainer. I think one's on his way, or her way. I'm not sure. Haven't gotten the name yet. We're hoping that we have that trainer on the way. But then we also have to have crew chiefs. We discovered that because of the simultaneous fires in multiple states, the crew chiefs who would normally be available are already on fires. And so this is a logistical bottleneck that we can't let happen in the future. It slowed down our deployment of the first 3 groups of trained firefighters here in our state.
And I saw this, you put out a statement that you drove 600 miles between Portland and Medford this past week, and give us a firsthand account of what you saw.
So I went to centers where fire refugees were getting help of all kinds. Communities were bringing in huge amounts. People were driving by, they were donating child seats, walkers, clothing, blankets, personal hygiene, everything you can think of that would just help a family immediately. Then we went to a couple of kind of command centers that were coordinating the public health and development response between all the different agencies and some of those briefings. And then I toured Phoenix and Talent that have just been scorched. I mean, think about the winds coming over the top of the Cascades, picking up fires and driving down the valley and just incinerating cities in their path, whether places like Mill City, Gates, Phoenix, Talent. This is on a scale that's just hard to comprehend. Looking at it, it reminded me of the photos of cities that were firebombed in World War II. I mean, kind of a little bit of twisted steel left, and meanwhile, just ashes, everything. Cars so burned out, they hardly looked like a car, sitting to wheel wells in the floorboards and ashes. It's just, I mean, families lost everything. Anything that they weren't able to grab on the way out the door, which for many families there was no time, it's gone. And this is why we have to all work together to help families get back on their feet, because it's going to be a real challenge.
Have you personally ever seen anything like this before?
You know, I kept thinking about how the only thing I've seen are pictures. I've been in fire areas where single houses burned. I was in the above John Day where the canyon fire took out a bunch of houses, but it'd be very scattered. It'd be a house and then a bunch of forest and then another house. This is different. I mean, you're seeing neighborhoods with sidewalks and fire hydrants that were burned to a crisp. And an estimated 1,000 residences are gone in Phoenix, much of it for the families that were the most affordable housing, manufactured housing parks, mobile housing parks, apartment buildings. When the housing's closer together, once the fire starts, it's much more likely to burn it out. Houses that were kind of standalone on lots had a little more distance. Some of those burned, but it appeared to me fewer of those. And then the commercial area burned. It's, I talked to this one woman who said, here's the thing, not only did I lose everything, but I lost my job because the place I worked burned to the ground. So it was just like everything's gone.
I would. There's many more questions I could ask about the wildfire, but there's two other things that I want to touch on briefly before our time is up here. I would like to ask you about vote by mail issue roiling the country right now and the coronavirus relief package. So first, let's talk about the vote by mail. And I know the Secretary of State in Oregon put out a plan yesterday for the displaced Oregonians, but generally speaking, on a national basis, what's going on with the vote by mail in the U.S. Postal Service?
Tim, there's one more thing I want to emphasize in our conversations about disaster relief, and that is on a phone call our delegation had with the head of FEMA this morning. He emphasized that every person needs to call and register at 1-800-621-3362. 1-800-621-3362. That's what opens the door for the individual who's been impacted by the fires. Ask me again about vote by mail.
Okay, yeah, we'll include that number in our story here. The vote by mail nationally, or the U.S. Postal Service, and all of that's going on, and then later the coronavirus relief package. So first, vote by mail.
Well, vote by mail, pioneered by Oregon, is a high integrity system. It's not susceptible to all the political manipulation that can happen on voting day. It doesn't, all this strategies such as shortening the hours, changing the location of the polling station, putting malfunctioning equipment in the polling station, decreasing the staffing, decreasing the number of polling stations in a particular precinct. All these things are ways to try to prevent people from voting that unfortunately a whole group of leaders around the country are really trying hard to stop communities of lower income, communities of color, Native American tribes from voting, and college students from voting. So we have this high integrity, robust system that Oregon has pioneered. It should be available to everyone in the country during this particular year. In fact, I think it's such a great system, it should be available every year, but particularly this year with COVID, it needs to be available.
Do you have confidence that the mail system will work across the country for the election?
I have confidence here in Oregon. I went and inspected the postal system out at the airport, and they had removed some sorting machines, but they kind of ran me through the math that they can still, with the sorting machines they have, easily process all of the ballots in a timely fashion. I think they were presenting an honest, factual story. I'm worried about other parts of the country where there's swing states, key swing elections for Congress or the Senate, where the political pressure might be high, and I'm not sure the whole Postal Service at the highest level is committed to full integrity in the coming election. So I think our best remedy is encourage people vote immediately. Once you get your ballot, encourage you to sign up for an absentee ballot. Once you get it, vote immediately. Consider dropping it off in person. Maybe have a friend take your picture. Do everything you can to make sure that our election is not tainted by nefarious officials trying to manipulate the outcome.
And the final question, Senator, before we have to go, the coronavirus relief package continues to be kind of stalled. What's the latest?
Yeah, for 4 months, Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, has blocked action on the House bill for 4 months. For 4 months, it's desperately needed package to support Americans in every possible way, in education as our kids went back to school, in healthcare, our state and local governments, the integrity of our voting system, support for the Postal Service, all of this. And I'll tell you, while Mitch McConnell slumbers, America suffers. And it shouldn't be that any one person could prevent the Senate from debating a bill. So this is why I'm pushing on reform of the Senate. But for the moment, I'm just encouraging citizens, keep cranking up the pressure across the country to convey to the majority in the Senate that their irresponsibility is really doing enormous damage to our nation.
Senator, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time today, but there's a lot to talk about, and we always appreciate you giving us your time.
Tim.
Thank you.
All right. Take care now. Bye.